Hello and welcome to the Local Author Day Author Panel. I'm Chanan Emmons and I work here at the library as a programs coordinator, and I'm so glad to have you all here. We had a lovely morning already, getting to meet our authors face to face, and now we're going to get to hear from each of them as they come up to introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about their work. Before we do that, though, I was hoping to let you know about some book-related events that we have coming up, notably the Hot Springs Book Festival, the second annual Hot Springs Book Festival, happening on May 26th and 27th, so just right around the corner, and we have a number of special guests coming. So our theme is Read the Natural State, and so let me just read you a list of our guests. We have Doug Tallamy, who is the founder of a grassroots organization called Homegrown National Park. We have horticultural specialist Janet Carson, and then the monarch and pollinator coordinator Leslie Cooper, and she's going to be speaking about our local pollinators. In the morning on that Saturday, the 27th, we'll have a guided bird watching walk with the Audubon Society. And then Holly Green is a YA author who wrote In the Same Boat. She's going to be joining us for a book talk, as is children's author Diana Hutz Aston. She wrote A Seed is Sleepy, A Rock is Lively, and just a host of other books for children that I think you would enjoy. So that's going to be May 26th and 27th, events taking place here at the library. In addition to that, if you spoke with a local author today and became inspired and want to write a story of your own, we have fiction writing groups for all ages here. We have our scribes group for ages 10 to 12, and then a teenage group, our Fiction Writers Cafe, that runs from 13 to 17. And then for 18 and above, we have our Ink Hearts Fiction Writers Club, which is actually going to meet on Tuesday, May the 9th at 6 o'clock here at the library. If you'd like to join us and look at developing your next story, we'd love to have you here. Okay, yes, I also want to mention this event is part of the Arts and the Park Festival, which is going on all this week. So I hope you'll attend some of the other events in the festival. Most of them are happening downtown, but some are happening in other places around Hot Springs. And then, oh yes, tonight, very special event tonight, we have Wednesday night poetry. And so our final guest in this panel is going to tell us a little bit more about that. It's pretty exciting. We'll be starting at 6:30 this evening. So now that I've gotten that out of the way, I'd like to introduce our first author, Nancy Smith Gibson. Nancy, if you'll come up, please.
Yes, I'm a Hot Springs author. I've lived here since my teenage years. In fact, I graduated from Hot Springs High School in 1955. So, and also, if you know anybody named Gibson in the county, yes, they are most likely. And there's a lot of those. I started writing late in life when my 4 children were raised and gone, and my husband had passed away. And most importantly, they had invented computers. You can't imagine how hard, if you're just starting now, it is to write something on a typewriter. And when you make a mistake, and or if you decide to put a paragraph someplace else, you have to start from the beginning and type it all over again. I write primarily in 3 different genres. I write historical romances, and they are much more historical than they are romance, but the publisher requires that part. And they range in time frame from the late 1800s through present time. And they are more factual. I try to make everything historically accurate, and that includes where people are unhappy with certain groups, other groups of people, and where they are accepted. For instance, how hard it was during World War I in Missouri, but the people in my stories always eventually get somewhere in Texas, because the whole time of this is takes place on the Brazos River. probably because I went to Baylor and became much more familiar with the Brazos River, which is the third longest river in the United States, which starts over in western Texas or eastern New Mexico and winds its way through the state, through Waco, where Baylor was, and finally pours into the Gulf of Mexico. That's a lot of room for adventures. Then I have a shorter series that takes place in and around New Orleans. It concerns a little witchcraft here and there. That is the kind that people don't believe in, but then they might go pay somebody for a little good luck or whatever, or wonder about how something happened. And then my most recent, the one I'm working on hardest right now, are cozy mysteries. And if you don't know what a cozy mystery is, it's a mystery in which not the police, but everyday people get involved in it, and it gets solved by just somebody like you or me. And the series I have going, Sissy and Miss Boo. And Sissy is a young woman who's teamed up with Miss Boo, who is a senior citizen. And they get to wondering about things and solving mysteries. They first meet up when Sissy is headed for the Gulf Coast for a job, and Miss Boo is headed for the Gulf Coast to go gambling and can't get anybody to take her, and the bus doesn't come. And so Sissy gives her a ride, and that's the beginning of a long how to solve a murder case. So those are mine. Have another Sissy and Miss Boo coming up anytime now, as soon as I get the cover worked out. And I hope to write for a long time more.
All right, our next author is Layla Gatlin. Hello, I'm Layla Gatlin. I am a Christian author. I have Christian nonfiction and Christian fiction, ranging from kids' books all the way up to adult. And most of my books are found on Amazon. Two of them, though, my more recent ones, are called Revelation, which is about Nephilim, angels, demons. It's got some love story thrown in there, and it takes place during what the Bible would consider the book of Revelation time frame. And so that one I wrote in high school, and it took me about 4 years to get that one complete, and it was kind of my baby. So it's the one I'm most proud of and I love the most. It's a young adult fiction. And then my newest one is called Judas Killer, and it is a crime fiction. It's police versus killer. And in that book, the police officers who are on the case, one of them is struggling with some of the religious nature of the killings. There's some symbolic things about the killings that he's kind of remembering his time growing up in church and how he got away from that. And it's bringing back these memories and making him question his faith and whether he needs to move back to that or not. And so as he's going about catching the killer with his partner, he's also considering his faith and how he wants to proceed with that. So it's got a lot of, themes and stuff to it too. And both of those, Revelation and Judas Killer, can be found online anywhere books are sold. And that's really all I have to say. Thank you. Nikki Meeks.
Hello, my name is Nikki Meeks, and I write young adult fantasy and romance. Right now, I have two books that I'm really trying to get out there. We have The Folly of Relics, and then we also have The Last Guardian. So with The Folly of Relics, I do my own artwork as well. So kind of dabble in illustration, so maybe children's books in the future, kind of thinking about that. So essentially, the one is Folly of Relics, that is my baby. It's my first book that I wrote, and it's about demons and exorcists. So demons are allowed to find their relics, which is the human manifestation of emotions. So once they find that, they can choose to accept it or they can destroy it. So it's basically, do you want to allow humanity to live? So it is a romance. They do fight in here. There's action, pretty fun. So that's always going to be my favorite one. I'm always going to push that one first. And then they are available on Amazon. And right now I am also on Facebook. So NA Meeks Collective Works. If you would like to follow that, you're more than welcome to. I am in the process of writing another one. So that will be probably posted on there here in the next couple of months once I finish the artwork for that. But yeah, fantasy, romance, all of it. Kind of into all of it. Okay, thank you.
Our next author is Janice LaForge.
Hello, I'm Janice LaForge. I thought I'd begin today by reading a bit from a Dean Koontz novel. But wait, why would I? He's never read one of mine. I have 3 novels available in paperback or Kindle format on Amazon.com. Amazon.com. The Kindle versions are free if you have Kindle Unlimited. The first one is called Sandfly, and it explores the question, what would you do if you had no fear of the consequences? This is the incredible story of a woman who sets off on a path she never imagined. How far would she go for a total stranger, a friend, and a lost love? Then we have the Romanov Remnant. Whoops. And this is answers the question, what is the secret that reporter Mitch Nelson uncovers hidden for almost 70 years in the diaries of the Russian immigrant grandmother of his late fiance? And then I want to read you a little bit of that, of Sandfly, the prologue. She sat on a hard rock, curled in a tight ball, her chin on her knees, trying hard to focus on her plan of escape. It was so dark. She had never seen so many stars. They seemed so bright and so close. The night was not like this back home in the city where the lights drowned out the sky. Home? Would she ever be back? The nearby ocean waves crashing were the only sound she heard. She was shivering, but not because she was cold. There had been so much blood. She was sure he was dead. Were they looking for her yet? She tried to remember the last time she felt normal and strong. Had it only been 6 months since her world turned upside down? And then lastly, we have Into the Fire. This is about a young woman who keeps making bad decisions. A failed romance leads her to commit a crime. She runs from the law, but then the criminal becomes a crime victim, once but twice. I have also 3 humorous nonfiction short stories that you can read for free online at the website storyhouse.org. That's it. Thank you so much.
next author is Janice Kent Percival.
I'd like to say thank you to the library for letting us all speak. It's really important for others. My latest book, which we all forgot. See if we can stick it up. Elderberry Summer. It's a historical fiction. It's about two families that are intertwined both in friendship and in survivalship. It's a historical fiction for all ages. It's set in late spring, early summer, or actually I think throughout the summer of 1895. And the families are from Hot Springs, and they're going to spend the summer in Cedar Glades, which is now under Lake Ouachita. It was a village there, and so they're on a farm, the old farm. And this family has already survived. This is real historical events. A late blizzard in 95, early in 95, followed by a smallpox epidemic. And then there were numerous fires in Hot Springs, unexplained. And so a lot of buildings were destroyed in Hot Springs. The two main characters, Rachel, who's 12, and Henry, who's 13, they've both recently had birthdays. And in the opening scene, Rachel tells us that one of the things that this quarantine and epidemic, it made her feel older. And this is a timely topic given that we're all impacted by COVID-19. Throughout the summer, the young people have a lot of adventures and some misadventures. There are two scientists who come to the farm, and one of them is a Dr. Palmer, and the other is his protege, George Carver. These are real people in history, and they intertwine with the different characters. And at one point, they actually save the life of one of the children. I've also brought into the storyline the lumber organization called the Concatenated Order of Hoo-Hoops, and it's a real thing. They were created by a handful of men in Gurdon, Arkansas, who it's a long story, but anyway, they were inebriated at the time. Today, it is an international organization, so it still survives. The main theme of this is how adults help children, young people transition from childhood into adulthood, and it's a topic also that we need to discuss. In closing, I'd like to invite everybody to the Elderberry is going to be released on June 4th, 1:30 to 3:30, Oakland Methodist Church. I'm going to be doing a presentation on the benefits of reading fiction. And so you're all invited. Thank you.
Mr. Elmer Beard.
I'm Elmer Beard. I'm the author of two books. My first book is The Challengers, Untold Stories of African Americans Who Changed in One Small Southern Municipality, the system. They changed the system. I share the local history of all the Black candidates who filed for public office between 1954, following Brown versus Board of Education of Topeka, Kansas, and 2010. This included Fred Martin, who was Black. It also involves Clifford Martin, who was white, whose daughters are here today. They share the name of the same, Martins. When Fred Martin won during Jim Crow, an angry mob showed up at Raleigh County Courthouse demanding that their votes be changed. It didn't happen. My second book is a volume of poetry titled Let Reason Roll, Race, Religion, and Reflection. It features 83 poems that represent each of the years of my life. I'm working on a second book of poetry that is scheduled to be printed and published by my own company next year if I'm still here. I've written more than 400 poems, and I try to write each day. I write before I go to bed, before I read my Bible at night. I recently celebrated my 86th birthday. I'm known as the Octo Griot, and the T is silent in that word. Before I close with my poetry selection, I'd like to share some information about one of my poems. In my struggle for freedom, I have one thing that I'm positive of, and this story about equality will tell that. Without a shadow of a doubt, of the slightest doubt, in the great somewhere is the equality hideout, a perfect equalizer that knows no season, grows nearer and nearer, perhaps for no reason. For the rich and the haves, there will be no exception. For the poor and the haven't, doom sets in at conception. The Jews and the Gentiles, the blacks and the whites, the sinners and the saints, the wrongs and the rights. When death comes creeping in, equality will emerge.
Kathy Hudson, you're our next author.
My name is Kathy Hudson. My sister and I are co-authors of A Yoga Storytelling Adventure, a series of award-winning children's books that introduce kids to yoga. We are former librarians as well as yoga teachers, passionate about not only literacy, but health and well-being. We stretch bodies and minds through timeless tales told with a yogic twist. This is our latest title, Kauhuhu, a story from Hawaii, where two boys, free or sharp, struggling in the sand. In their excitement, they beat the high chief's drum, which is kapu, forbidden. What happened now? A story of courage, perseverance, and compassion. Peace and quiet. We all need some of that, don't we? This is a whimsical tale that takes us to Eastern Europe, where a mild-mannered girl thinks she lives in a noisy and chaotic house until her wise neighbor turns her world upside down and she sees things in a different way. She learns we may not be able to control the world around us, but we can control our inner world. Forever Friends takes us on a whimsical journey to India, where an unlikely friendship develops between a royal elephant and a homeless dog. We've got kindness, we've got honesty, and friendship. And the impossible dream, a daring journey to the swamplands where the paddler has the same strange dream night after night till he can no longer ignore it. What will he discover? Kind of like an author. Contentment, determination, and the power of believing in oneself expounds in this tale. Each story ends with a full description of yoga poses that follows the storyline. So the kids make the story come alive with a yoga storytelling adventure. The books can be found on Amazon and at our website, A Yoga Storytelling Adventure. Thank you for allowing me to share my story.
Our next author is Betty Lou Comstock Graves.
Good morning. I'm Betty Lou Comstock Graves, and I've written an autobiography. Zulum Press and Amazon carry my book. The title is A Journey of Faith and Miracles by Betty Lou Graves. My second book, Part 2, is ready for publication and is a sequel to the first one. I'm a teacher and prophet who served the Lord for 43 years. I have 6 years of ministry experience in jail, 7 years of ministry in a men's prison, and 4 years of ministry in a men's adult and teen challenge recovery program. I've been a licensed Assembly of God minister since 2012. My hobbies are sketching and writing. I've always wanted to write and thought it might be an extra source of income. My next thought was I could leave my book as a legacy for our children and grandchildren. I wrote about my life like a story rather than just stating facts or discussing events. I included dialogue and descriptive detail, making my autobiography sound more like a nonfiction novel. From my first unforgettable experience in a snake handling church when I was 4 years old, to growing up with my 2 older brothers and younger sister here in Hot Springs. I retired from the Hot Springs School District after 10 years. I worked as a bookkeeper at the central office. While working there, one of the janitors, Randall, shoots his new bride at home and commits suicide. The day before, he confided in our receptionist, Debbie, a friend. She told me what he told her and why he shot his wife. She didn't know what he would do, but she knew he was devastated. And I put this story in the book. Also, I wrote about the machete murder of a young woman, Lacey, by her ex-deranged boyfriend. She was my daughter's best friend when they were in grade school. These stories are just a few of the many stories that I have in my book. After completing my book, I realized I had lived an incredible life and witnessed miracles within myself and others that could only have been from God. By reading my book, you will see these miracles and so much more in my autobiography, A Journey of Faith and Miracles. And when I married my husband, that's why I retired early after 10 years. We lived in Europe for 9 years. We lived in Holland, and we just traveled Europe. And that's in the second book. It's not the first one. And I'm ready to publish that one just any day. So thank you for listening to me.
Stephen Campbell, would you come and speak?
Hello, I'm Steve, and I thought I would just read a couple pages and keep it under the 3 minutes. This is the book. There was a little kid in there. I let him look at it while I was reading it. It's really not just for kids. It's for me too. Like I feel like I am the lead character, Star. You notice Star is actually a shape of a star, and that's her little best friend's circle. So the book is about fitting in to. She felt like she wanted to fit in. So I'm just going to read a few pages. Once upon a time, there was a little girl named Star. Star never felt comfortable. She thought she was never good enough, and she wanted to fit in with others. But for Star, that was hard because she was a different shape than everyone else. For her whole life, she wanted to have more friends. She thought her yellow was too yellowy, her points were too pointy, and her glow was too glowy. I'm just skipping a few, okay? She wanted to be friends with the Squares. So that's a group of kids.
It's such a good book, y'all. I've read it. It's really,
Thank
I'm
you,
serious,
Pat.
it's really good.
She's my biggest fan. The Square Gang had a clubhouse. Star and Circle did not. The Square Gang clubhouse even had a red door in the shape of a square. She wondered what fun things must happen behind that red square door. Star noticed that whenever she looked toward the Squares clubhouse, the Squares were always looking back at her. They must think I'm such a bore, she thought. But they didn't really think that. Let me find my page. So time went on. She wanted to join them, but they were both too shy to talk to each other. And she thought she would never fit in. But one sunshiny morning at the city central park, Star noticed a very strange thing. As she came near the square's clubhouse, all the squares stood outside, and they were looking right at her. She was used to seeing them stare at her, but never all of them at once. She felt nervous, so she walked a little faster. One of the squares finally spoke to Star. Star was startled at first because none of them had ever done that. Would you like to come inside and play with us? The square asked. Star was speechless. Her heart seemed to skip a beat. Star's first thought was to run away, but she was also very excited. Oh, how many times she had wondered what was behind that red square door. All the squares surrounded her with anticipation. They watched her with big eyes. Star stood frozen, trying to make sense of this strange turn of events. At last, Star said yes. You've given me my cue this time. Okay, well, in the end, she tried to get into the store. She couldn't fit in no matter what she did because she's a star and it's the square shape, right? But in the end of the book, obviously, they wanted to be friends with her and they invited her to play outside of the clubhouse. And I'm donating that one to the library for the kids.
Our next author is Phyllis Hodges.
Hello, everyone. Hello. I am author Phyllis Hodges, and I am excited to be here. And I look out in the audience and I see some new friends I met earlier today. I see the twins. I see the young man in the back that just finished reading, and I see several other people. So I want you to look at my face. I don't want you to forget me. I'm from Little Rock, Arkansas. And thank you so very much for inviting me here. I'm excited about being here today for several reasons. My beloved mom and we're on a book tour. Yes, a real book tour. And I'm a little worn, but I couldn't miss Hot Springs. Why not? Because both of my books, I have several, but the ones I'm highlighting today, Girl Power and 8 Years of Unforgettable History, they're located in this library. Look at here. I think somebody needs to be saying, whoop, whoop, they're in the library. And then, not only the library, we're here in the high school. We're in Hot Springs High School, okay? That's another whoop, whoop. Can I have a whoop, whoop? And let me show you this. 8 Years of Unforgettable History. Yes, both of these books by yours truly. But I didn't come to share these two amazing books. I have something very special I want to share with you. Can everybody join me in saying bookworms? Bookworms. During the pandemic, hubby and hubby, 49 years of marriage, to this wonderful man. Yes, that's it. I was 16, he was 22, and he is my beloved husband. So during the pandemic, we co-authored a book together called Bookworms because we love books. We have a personal library, and we go around to these tiny libraries and we donate books, we collect books, and so we decided to write our love story in this little funny book called Bookworms. And I want to read you something real quick. I am a preacher, so I talk real long. So she's going to time me. This is going to be very quick. Bookworms. Let me open it up first. You see that handsome man right here? That's the hubby, honey bun, and that's yours truly. These individuals here, they wrote the foreword. Now listen up. Got something to tell you. I'm not going to tell you everything because you got to purchase the book. Come on. Okay, they started out with a big kiss. That's love at first sight. Byron and Phyllis, forever. My hubby came from Cairo, Illinois. And if anybody know about Cairo, Illinois, oh my God, people that look like me, But guess what? Both of my books, 8 Years of Unforgettable History and Girl Power, is in Cairo, Illinois, library and the museum. Won't God do it? Okay, moving right along. Now, he came from Cairo. He got on the bus and he came to Arkansas. Check it out. Okay, now look at that. And I was only 16, so I was a junior at Hall High School, working my first job, Kentucky Fried Chicken. This cute man was driving a convertible red top. There he is, coming to Kentucky Fried Chicken. He had no idea he was going to meet the love of his life. Uh-oh, it's time. You have to get the book, okay? I can't tell you anything else. You got to get the book. Girl power.
Ms. Hodges, thank you for reminding us to be enthusiastic for each other. We're not a shushing library, so it's okay. All right, our next author is Ashley Nix Lindsley. And she works here at the library, and we're incredibly proud of her.
Hi, I'm Ashley Nix Lindsley, Nix-Lindsley. I do have an author's page on Facebook, and you can find my first published work on Amazon and Kindle. It's a YA fantasy novel called Shattered Mirror, and it has had an interesting story. I actually wrote it almost 15 years ago when I was a late teenager, and I self-published it in 2012 on Lulu, back when they were the only ones really doing it. And then I went into teaching and didn't really have time to do anything with it. So now it's getting kind of a re-release. It's getting a color cover treatment. It really means a lot to me personally. It is definitely a symbolic story, but it's definitely a lot of fun too. I did illustrate the cover. I have a prequel written up in a notebook that I plan on publishing and also releasing a hardcover with more artwork from the story in it that I did a while back. I plan on doing several poetry anthologies, and I also would like to write a memoir about my time teaching, and how it's just been really interesting to be in a different educational setting here at the library. But I'm really, really excited. Like I said, I do have a Facebook page and an Amazon link, and it will also be in the library if you want to check it out. Thank you.
Actually just breezed past teaching. She was actually of great service to the community. You'll have to ask her about that. Our next author is Dr. Billy Blackman.
I'd just like to say that, forgive me, Shannon, because I'm always reminded of Mark. I'm a preacher. Mark, microphone, O, opportunity, P, people. So there's a dangerous combination for me. But I'm grateful to God and thankful for my book. It's called All I Need Is in God's Word. The premise of it is that I had some addictions that I could not overcome, and I wanted to. And so God revealed to me that everything I needed was in His words, particularly that of cigarettes, very hard habit to stop. But God blessed me to it, and so I was inspired to put it in writing, and I'm thankful to God. And I would just like to say my book can be purchased through Amazon and Barnes and Nobles. Also, you can get it from me so that I can recoup and get along with my wife some of the monies, because I too thought that with writing, you would make money. I didn't realize that you have to spend so much. But we're grateful to God and thankful. And also a copy of it is in the library here, so we're thankful for that. But the book is an alternative that I hope will bless people as they read it, to know that if you want to overcome, God will bless you to do it. But it's not by any osmosis means. It's that you will take an effort, because in closing, I want to say this, that it is my contention that everything we do is divinely orchestrated by God. So I believe that life is a series of godly inspiration with human cooperation. Thank you for this opportunity.
Our next author is Stuart J. Silverman.
I suppose I'm the oldest person here. At 89, if you want to continue. I'm a poet, I think. And I will read a poem in a moment. I have 5 books, the 5th one coming out June 6th. But I'll read a poem from my book, Drifters, which will be very different from any of the others that you've heard. And I'll start by saying the title is Arachnophilia. Last year I had to start wearing glasses. Yeah. I don't wear them to drive because I don't want to see where I'm going. So the title is Arachnophilia, which perhaps I should say is love of spiders. And it's not a very nice poem. So let's go. See what prodigious work the spider, with only nature's will to guide her, produces from her 8-legged body, and nothing tawdry, nothing shoddy. See how the male, attuned to duty and blinded by her fatal beauty, their matrimonial bands will seal, and lingering be her nuptial meal. See why, consumed by love's sweet rapture, he dallies, courting capture. The spermic transfer he was made for, in the scheme of things, billed and paid for. For him, a posthumous beginning. For her, of course, it's back to spinning.
Our next author is Sheila M. Tucker.
Hi, I'm Sheila Tucker. I'm from Malvern, and I started writing when I was young, very young. I wrote poetry. It was very bad poetry, but thankfully I didn't share it with anyone but my family, and they had to say it was good because they were my family. But then I started writing fiction, and I decided that I love crimes because that was my degree, was in criminal justice, and so I started writing books about that, and I found that in telling stories, you become not just a writer, but you can become a painter and a teacher, historian. And my first work, I really didn't want to share with anyone. And then when I was in college, I had a very wonderful professor, Ronnie Thompson, and I decided to share my work with him. And I said, tell me if I'm wasting my time or should I continue? And he read the first 2 chapters of my book that I'd written, and he said, you have to continue. And he encouraged me so much. And so I did. I finished my book and I had it published. And it's called The Riverbank. And it's based on a crime that happened in Malvern. And it actually happened about 3 miles from my home. And so I told my husband when it happened, they found the woman's body in the river, the Washita River. And I said, you know, if you think about it, if the river could talk, what stories would it tell? And so I said, well, I'm going to tell its story. And so I did. That was my first book. And I had a lot of people tell me, okay, when's the second one? So but life happened, children and career. And so it was a while before I wrote my second book, and it's called The Setup, and it is a courtroom drama. And I encourage you to read it, because if you can tell me what you would decide if you were the jury, I would be very interested. Then my third is a short story that I wrote it's called Baby Doe, and it's about a little boy, a baby that's abandoned in New York City, and his life and how life is a big circle and how it comes back to you. All of my books are on Amazon, so you can find them there. And also, I have an email. If anybody wants to tell me what they think of my books, I would love that too. So the library will have that on file. But I want to encourage teachers, if there's any teachers here, please encourage your students, because if it hadn't been for my professor, I probably would not have ever had the courage to do what I did.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Our next author is Diane Michelle Elam. Diane, I've seen you today. Are you here? All right. Then we'll move on to Gail Ann Wisdom. Good afternoon. My name is Gail Ann Wisdom, and I'm a retired teacher. And throughout my teaching career, I saw my share of bullying. And so when I retired, being a published author was on my bucket list. And thus, I produced Trouble with Bullies. It's kind of a unique design because when I was teaching early grades, I saw there was quite a gap between picture books and chapter books. And a lot of times you lost the interest of your reader when it went from pictures to no pictures, or maybe a black and white. So this is a chapter book, 48 pages, but it has 20 full color illustrations. And my illustrator had never done illustrations for children's books before, but he did a fabulous job once we straightened out how does a second or a third grader look. So he did a fabulous job, and he said, when are you writing your next one? He said, I'm a painter, and I didn't just paint one picture. So I promised him I'll work on my next one soon. Friends reported to me that even though this is written for 7 to 10-year-olds, that they would read it to their very young children, 4, 5, and 6 years old. And since it's a chapter book, 48 pages, they thought they could never read the whole story. And they said, Grandma, read more, read more. So it's a kind of book that it's impossible to put down. And I say that because there's an immediate character-reader connection, because bullying is a part of almost everyone's life, no matter how old or how young you are. And so you might be a victim, you might be a bystander. There's a role for the bystander as well, or you might be the bully. And so it's not a self-help book, but reading this outstanding story, you also, the children don't know it, but you also pick up tips of how to deal with bullies in a story format. So the tools are very valuable for young children. A lot of times they don't know what to do, or if you're just standing there watching it happening, you don't know what to say. But there's tools within the story. So working together,
we can all, it's not gonna ever go away, but we can help. And if you save but one child from getting lost or committing suicide, heaven forbid, it's worth it. So my husband is a counselor and he wrote a study guide to go with the book. And it's a chapter by chapter study guide. So counselors can benefit from it, teachers, and even parents. And if you purchase the book, the study guide is free. And I have some flyers with my information on how to get the book. And if you want a flyer, I have it here. Okay, I'll tell you more about my poetry another day.
Thank you, Gail. Our next author is Biddy Martin.
Hi there, I'm Biddy Martin. I'm the author of Snake Eyes Murder in a Southern Town. This is a true story. It happened here in Hot Springs in 1966, and our friend Kathy Ward was the first victim. The book's available in hardcover, ebook, and audiobook at the bookstores, here at the library, and also at the Historical Society. I want to thank you all so much. Thank you.
I just need to say, if you're ever planning an event and you're inviting authors, always invite Biddy. She is the most supportive person I have ever worked with. Thank you. Our next author is Gloria Price. Haven't seen you today, Gloria. All right, I'll move on to the next. Terry Thompson.
Thank you. I'm Terry Thompson, and the book is Daniel, Prophet at the King's Command. This is a novel, but it is based on the Bible book of Daniel. It is absolutely true to the Bible in every respect, and it is also authentic to ancient history. I spent about 4 years in writing the book and researching the 5th century BC lifestyle that Daniel had to live in both Jerusalem and Babylon. It's endorsed by Mike Huckabee and several other prominent Christian authors and personalities. And I felt very privileged to have Mike endorse the book. Let me just read you a quick excerpt from page 316 of the book. People of Babylon, you are liberated. The child king is dead. Hail the god of sin. Hail Nabonidus. Nabonidus has done it. He's taken over the capital, Daniel thought. Daniel could not get enough press of the insurrectionists on his steps. Realizing he might be placing himself in grave danger, he walked his way slowly to one of the people who were acting with some authority. Sir, I am Belteshazzar, advisor to the queen. I need to be with her to assist her in the peaceful transition of power. In swift motion, the man pressed the edge of his sword against Daniel's neck. I doubt if the queen is in need of any advice. Perhaps her need is for someone to prepare her body for burial. He pushed Daniel back down the steps. Moments later, Daniel opened the door to the unlighted interior of his house. On his way to his bed, feeling for his bed, he slowly adjusted to the darkness. Someone was crouched in the corner of the room. Who is it? Daniel blurted. Kashaya, returned a soft, broken voice. Kashaya, I thought you were dead. Daniel fumbled in the darkness to light a lamp, but his hands were not steady enough. He knelt to embrace her, barely able to see her face. What happened? How did you get here? They burst in, took my son. A man in my room held me down. Labashi Marduk, little Labashi Marduk. was screaming. Suddenly, my administrator ran into the room. He ran his sword through my captor. He took my arm, and we escaped through the side door amidst the confusion. The last thing I would hear was my son screaming, abruptly turned silent. She collapsed into Daniel's chest, sobbing uncontrollably. Daniel carried her to his bed, covering her with a blanket, and whispered, "We must be silent until morning. Try to be as quiet as possible. If you're discovered here, we will both be killed." Okay, what chapter in the Bible book of Daniel does that come from? You won't find it there, right? Daniel only has 6 chapters of his life, and yet he lived 80 years captured in Babylon. And during that 80 years, a lot of adventure happened in Daniel's life. And you can only get that from researching into ancient history. I have taken all that and folded it together, being true to the history, being true to the Bible, yet embellishing it with plausible fiction that I think you will just be captivated by when you read it. It's available on Amazon and on my website, terrythompson.org. Thank you.
Our next author is Cassidy Kendall. Saw her earlier, so we may come back. All right, how about Jamie Nesbitt Jones? No, that's okay.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Thank you for coming, and I'd like to thank the Garland County Library too for promoting this event. My book is, and my name is Jamie Nesbitt Jones. My book is The Arkansas Hitchhike Killer, James Wayburn Red Hall. It's a true crimer, and I'm going to start by reading just a short segment from it. Red is talking to detectives. It had been a long week and everyone was tired, but as the crew headed for home, Hall perked them up with a short statement that astounded them. There were others, he said. Others? Peterson raised an eyebrow. I've killed other people besides Faye and the 4 in Arkansas this year. A dozen come to mind right now. That colored woman in Salina, a man in Texas last December, and 10 Mexicans in Arizona in 1938. There were more. How many are we talking about? Peterson asked. Well, nearer 24 than 12, Red estimated. Nearer 24 than 12, one for each year of his own life, just like Billy the Kid. The killings he claimed as his own doing amounted to 17, leaving 7 unknown, possibly more. Though authorities didn't have names for the other victims, they certainly had some good prospects. Red went on. The truth is that if I told you about every person I have killed, people wouldn't believe it. There are so many, I can't remember. So that's Red. Red Hall was a serial killer born in Faulkner County, Arkansas. He was prolific, but he was not well known. He is not well known. He did most of his murdering during World War II. So the news and the newspapers were all about the war, and he got away with a lot. And one thing I'm proud of is that this is the first book ever written about his life. I kind of like to think I rescued him from the dustbin of history. And I do think of true crime as part of history. I hope you find it informative and interesting, sometimes even with a little humor in it, so it won't be so grim. You can find me more about the book because I am learning more. I have a Facebook page devoted to the Arkansas Hitchhike Killer, so look under that in Facebook. And you can buy it at any of the online places like Amazon and others. And in some of the brick and mortar stores like Barnes and Noble and Books A Million, hopefully. So I just want to thank you all. Whoa. Okay.
Thank you, Janie. We missed the chance to host Janie at our True Crime Festival, and so this is fulfilling for me that we finally got to have her up on stage. All right, our next author is Dr. Liz Bataille.
Hi, everybody, and congratulations to all the authors here, and thank you to the library. I have 2 books. This one I showed last year when I was here. I wrote it 4 years ago in July. It's called Life Launch: Surviving the Storms of Physical and Sexual Abuse, and it is the first 25 years of my life. And it is available on Amazon, and also I have Facebook and all the social media pages, and they're all Dr. Liz Bataille or Dr. Liz. And my website is drlizlifelaunch.com, because I did launch my life out of some pretty bad places. And the main thing about this, and I'm sorry I'm getting choked up, but Phyllis started it, if she's still here, with that hope story. But basically, even though there's a lot of unpleasant stories in here that are not stories, but my life. The bottom line is that I survived and I have thrived. And a lot of things saved me, and I talk about those saving graces. One of them is education, one of them is reading, one of them is writing. And so I share in this book not just the junk, but prayers, meditations, life lessons, my self-help resources, my daily regimen, and a lot of other resources. One of those resources that I used to self-heal was writing poetry. And so I put this together last year. It contains most of the poems that I've written since the age of 12. And a lot of them are trying to make sense out of the world that I knew it. And a lot of it is relationships with family. A lot of it is love, because what I saw presented to me by my parents wasn't necessarily what I thought love should be. And some of it is my struggles with religion and things like that. So I just wanted to read a little poem if I have some time. I didn't see you do the thumb. Okay. This one is called Until We Die. When you put your arms around me and look deep into my eyes, for that moment I'm a queen. You've crowned me, and you're my king. I'm satisfied. For that instance, nothing else exists except for you and I. And together we shall go as God insists, caring for one another until we die. My love for you is boundless. It's a never-ending sea. And remember, there's never anyone around us whenever you put your arms around me. A lot of what I've written is hopeful wishing for the future. And the hope is what has saved me and what I wish to impart to others through my books, my website, and then I have a charitable foundation called the Benjamin J. Dubrow Rainbow of Hope Foundation for Suicide Prevention and Mental Health, that is with the Arkansas State as a charitable foundation. And 15% of all the proceeds of anything that I sell in the Life Launch series, I'm going to have a t-shirt and things like that on Hope, is going to suicide prevention and mental health. Thank you.
Next is Dr. Sam Taggart.
Thank you. I hope you folks are halfway as thrilled as I am with the people who've gotten up here this afternoon. Do you realize that you people are different? I mean, really, almost to the person, you're different. Most people don't do this kind of thing, okay? They don't spend their time devoting themselves. Now, I'm not going to talk about my books today. I don't really need to. I don't really want to. Y'all recognize that? That's a library card for Saline County Library. I have one for Garland County Library. I hope everybody in this room and your spouse and your children and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren all have a library card. Because if it wasn't for this, we wouldn't be doing this. Okay? Mr. Silverman was talking about spiders back there. Okay? All the writers and spiders are very common, have some similarities. Has some real similarities. They weave their stories one thread at a time. Okay? When I was 5 years old, my mother was the ultimate caregiver on an extended family, and she would go to the library, back to the library again. She'd go to the library every week, and she'd bring home a stack of books. One of the proudest moments of my life was when I got my first library card, and I can say at 76 that I have had an active library card ever since. Okay? Let that be the goal of your children and your grandchildren. Okay? You're writing things, some of which is fiction. I mean, most of what we're writing is not fiction. It's our lives fictionalized. Okay? I mean, that's all it is. I don't want to say that's not all it is, but that's what great writers do. They fictionalize their lives. So I would encourage you to do what you're doing. Keep doing it. And by the way, for the young writers in this room, if you've written more than one book, you're addicted. Okay? And I promise you, it doesn't go away. It doesn't go. I started at 17. One other thing, and I'll quit. Okay, is one of the things that my parents, my mother especially, my teachers, and my librarian taught me. My librarians, I shouldn't say library, was critical thinking. Not to accept everything that somebody says is the truth, but think critically, okay? And that's why my writing started at age 17. I started writing things down. I didn't write for the public until I was about 20 years ago or so, 55, I guess, okay? But I will tell you that teach your grandchildren, your children, to think critically. It's really important. My books are history books. I write about the history of rural health in Arkansas. I'm a retired family physician. I write about country doctors of Arkansas and the narrative history of health and disease in Arkansas. You can buy them anywhere. I love it. The library has it. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you, Dr. Taggart, for the encouragement. If you would like to find out about his books, the library has recordings of the live stream we did of Country Doctors of Arkansas, so you can find out there. Our next author is Abigail Meredith.
Hi there. My name is Abigail Meredith, and I'm the author of the children's book series, Abby's Acres. I have 2 of them published thus far, and I would just like to share kind of why I wrote them and what they're about. Me and my husband got married 2 years ago. He sold all of his cows that he'd been saving since middle school and high school, and we put a down payment on the tiny farm, is what we like to call it. We started adding things to the tiny farm, which was kind of my deal. And he would come home to whatever animal that I had found that day. We grew this animals and all the things, and I finally decided, well, animals are pretty funny. I should write stories about them. So around COVID time, when people were inside, I was writing short stories about my animals. I sat on all of my stories for years, and then last fall, my husband said, you're going to miss 100% of the chances you don't take. You need to get them illustrated and just see what happens. So I started my journey with getting my first book, Leonard Meets the Acres, illustrated, and then I sat on it till January because I was so scared. I finally published my first book in January and my second book in March, and you can find them on Amazon and at some local places. But my books take place on a farm. They're for children to learn life lessons through our farm family. They learn lessons about friendship, love, and kindness, but also about hard things like anxiety and sadness and depression and stuff like that in a children's way. It's my passion to share our farm friends with kids all over. I really love seeing kids learn about not just animals and education, which they don't have as much anymore, but also about learning those hard things that I did not learn until I was an adult. Overall, it's very rewarding. Thank y'all for having us today, and thank you, Garland County Library, for this event.
Next is David Malcolm Rose. David, did you step out for a moment? All right, I'll come back. I'll come back. Paula Jones. You mind taking David's spot for the photo?
I'm just gonna adjust it. I'm nervously watching it drift.
I wanted us to be out in the open part of the library for this, but then of course we had to adjust our microphone. Thank you.
Well, my name is Paula Jones. I have my sister here because my voice is gone, and she's going to speak for me if that's okay.
Well, I'm Barbara Talley. I'm Paula Jones's sister. And her book is available, what'd you say?
Amazon.
Wait, I don't know the name of it. I'm sorry. That's my first one. It's called Double Devastation.
Brought glorious transformation.
You can get it on Amazon and Walmart.
Books A Million. Anywhere books are sold.
Anyways, first, I've got to change glasses here.
Wait a minute. I went through 2 devastations in my life. I'm going to try and speak. I went through 2 devastations. The first one was in 1977. It was on New Year's Eve that night. I left me a widow. It was a double homicide. It left me a widow at 19 years old. It was on the front page of the paper here and everything. So then after that, I had this small child to raise. I made a lot of bad choices until God got a hold of my life. And that was the best choice I ever made. And, but I went through another devastation because my son got into drugs and alcohol and all sorts of things. And he was found dead in a Federal Express drop box in 1994. And so I had to cope with that. And I had to go through that. And the Lord helped me through that. I suffered every emotion that you could even imagine: fear, grief, guilt, all of it. But the Lord, and I talk about it all in this book, how you can come through victorious. You do not have to be a victim. You can be victorious through Jesus Christ if you will allow him. If you suffer with any kind of abuse, if you've been through any kind of crisis, if you've been through anything, any kind of devastation, God can bring you through it because he did for me. And I am the evidence. I am the evidence. So with that, I thank the Garland County Library, and I want to donate a book to the Garland County Library because I've lived in Garland County all of my life. And so I thank you for this.
The miracle.
Power of God comes over you.
Thank you for sharing your story. Our next author is Cynthia DeAlba.
I am not a preacher, so which why you shut me up. I'm Cynthia DeAlba. That's my pen name. I grew up in Hot Springs. I was born here. My family's roots are so deep in this county that if you cut a tree down, we hurt. We had traced the family back to the mid-1800s, And so we've been here forever. So I grew up here, graduated from Hot Springs High School in 1974 as Cindy Donathan, and went to college in Fayetteville and Memphis and Little Rock, went all over the place. And writing was never even on my mind. My mother worked for Farm Bureau Insurance. And do y'all know where the Department of Finance Administration's buildings? That was the Garland County Library when I was a child. And Mother's office was across the street. I lived at the Garland County Library. I was there every day. I read everything I could get my hands on. Appropriate or not, it didn't matter. I read everything. And Trixie Belton still holds a place in my heart for those that are my age. Remember Trixie Belton? I'm sorry?
Was she the librarian?
No. Trixie Belton was a series of books that were from way back, and there were mysteries, and there were cozy mysteries because they solved crimes. It's sort of like Nancy Drew, but the cheap version. But yeah, she was great. So I was always a reader, just always had a book in my hand. My husband went to buy a car at the Jeep place here in town one day, and I sat in the lobby reading a romance novel because I couldn't care less what he paid for the car. I knew he'd do better without me. And then finally one of the salesmen said, "Don't you want to be in the back where he's negotiating the price?" And I said, "No." So I didn't, but I read all the time. I went to school and got degrees in lots of things. I have a bachelor's in nursing. I have a master's in curriculum and instruction. I have a master's in business administration. I have a doctorate in higher education administration. And then I quit work. I said, that's all I can take. I love school. And so my husband watched me read about 1,000 books one year. And no exaggerating, I was reading 10 to 14 a week. And he said, I think you could probably write one of those books if you ever put your mind to it. I think you should write one. And I thought to myself, okay, I'll write a romance novel. How hard can that be? Oh my God, it's so different than writing a doctoral dissertation or all of my medical journal articles that use facts. I am a mainstream contemporary romance author. I have about 27 books out now, and I am wherever books are sold. Amazon, Kobo, Apple, Barnes & Noble. One day I looked on Target and I was there. I'm like, really? You wonder how that got on Target? I am self-published. I've just found over the times it's better for me to stay self-published. So I am self-published. I do have a couple of my books in the library digitals. You can find a couple of my books there. So I am on Facebook. I'm everywhere, and it's Cynthia D-A-L-B-A, Cynthia D'Alba. So feel free to ask me anything you want about romance or how I got here. Thank you.
All right, our next author is Katrina Robertson.
I'm a writer, not a speaker, so I wrote down everything I'm going to say. But I'm going to start by just a short excerpt. Our foreman gets us organized again. Since we've decided the defendant is not guilty of first-degree murder, we must now move to second degree. He reads aloud the statute, outlining the criteria for a second-degree murder charge. There are a few bullet points, but the one that we all stop on is a reckless disregard for human life. We pull the crime scene back out. We study the layout, where the body was found, as well as the gun. We discuss the order of events according to the testimonies given. Did she have other options? Was her life really in danger? We discuss it thoroughly. We decide it's time to vote. We go around the room. It comes to me. I close my eyes and I whisper, guilty. It's unanimous. I hadn't realized until this moment how difficult it would be to utter the word guilty regarding another human being. Is it so agonizing because the facts presented in the trial led me to a verdict that my emotions didn't want to go with? Is it just that I don't feel equipped to judge another human being? I'm not sure, but I do know I never want to be put in this situation again. That's an excerpt from my memoir, Juror Number 11, a memoir of the broken justice system and rising from the trials of life. I got my wish because I'm now never allowed to serve on a jury again, because after the trial, I was charged with contempt of court. I faced my own possibility of jail time, and another judge stepped in and granted a mistrial for that murder trial. And so it was 5 months of a nightmare of a circus of being caught in the judicial system. And although that's the center of the story, I interweave many other struggles in my life at that time, primarily coming from the raising of adopted kids from the foster care system that had some very significant struggles from trauma backgrounds. And I was going through some very difficult things with them during that time. But I wanted to write this book because I think it's important to tell our stories. I think everybody in here can recognize that. It's through our stories that we learn and we grow. It's through other people's stories that we learn and we grow. But I learned through all this that no matter what life throws at you, you can choose to rise from it. And that's where my tattoo there came from. It was my phoenix when I finally had my last trial. I felt like I was kind of rising from those ashes. So all of this just happened recently, last year. It's been wrapped up in September. I wrote it all in a matter of a couple of weeks and published in January. I've been overwhelmed by the response to the book. It's on Amazon and it's already won a nonfiction award. And so, anyway, that's it.
I think you just proved yourself wrong about not being a speaker. All right, our next author is Ron Greiner. Am I saying your name correctly?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Ron Greiner.
My name is Ron Grinder. My book title is North, South, East, West by Water. Over a period of 14 years, I have floated approximately 16,000 water miles going from New York City to the Pacific Ocean, lacking about 150 miles, and doing so by water. And have gone from Lake Winnipeg, Canada to the Gulf of Mexico, lacking about 15 miles, but doing so by water. I travel all of Mississippi, Missouri, Ohio, Minnesota, Red, Honduras, Tennessee, Erie Canal, Tentown Waterway, the four Colorado River reservoirs. I also boarded major portions of the Hudson, Allegheny, St. Croix, Cumberland, Monongahela, Kentucky, Flathead, Clarkport, Columbia, Jefferson, Illinois, and the Arkansas River. These waterways took me to 33 states and 2 Canadian provinces. Watercraft used was a 17-foot squareback canoe with a 4-horse motor, a Zodiac inflatable with 25-horse motor, a 17.5-foot runabout with 140-horse I.O. While the book details what it took me to make these trips, I think what makes the book a good read is I incorporated the interaction of people I met along the way who helped me. An example is I was on the Arkansas River and I had an engine failure. I managed to get the boat to a marina in Little Rock, and coincidentally they happened to have the same block I needed for my boat, and they swapped it out the same day I was there, and I was off on my way again. One day down. The book is available on Amazon, and contact can be reached as NSEWEYWATER, Water, North, South, East, West.
Y'all, humans are amazing. That is a applause. All right, our next author is Christian Bordelon. Christian, are you still here? All right, how about Fred Campbell? All right, Mr. Wade Rivers. We have a winner.
Just so you know, I was about to take one of those other names so I could speak. But I've changed my name too many times already. My name is Wade Rivers. It's not my real name. I actually live on a river, and I do have to wade it because it floods all the time. But just so you know, I was thinking about walking on waters, but that sounds too, we don't want to get anybody, I don't want to be confused with anybody else. Right? He wouldn't like that. I'm very thankful to the library. Short story on me is that I did grow up in the library. My mother was a librarian in North Little Rock. And she used to drag me down there, and it's like, oh God, I want to go play football and so forth. But once I got into the library and started going around and grabbing books, it was like, then when she left, she had to find me. And I was very blessed because my mother would read to me constantly growing up. And I have always had a great imagination to a detriment. Okay. But I never intended on being a writer. I went on, I had other professions in life and so forth. And actually I had a business that required a lot of travel. And I was passing through a place called DeQueen, Arkansas. And I stopped there, and I would stop and drop off Bibles and AA books. All right. And wherever I went, I would just like, it's one little thing I could do in the world. And as I left DeQueen, I was driving, was going up towards Mena. And a truck started coming my way. And it was an older truck. There was a beautiful woman driving it. And I remember her earrings and dangling and so forth. I could see the bling bling. And she drove past. I went, my gosh. And I was married. All right. It's not going to go where you think it's going to go. And I drove on down about another mile or so. And all of a sudden, bam, it was a lightning bolt. And I imagined this woman, where she lived, the ranch, her husband, the crime that took place. And Mena, from DeQueen to Mena, is about an hour drive. It took me 3.5 hours because I would drive a couple miles, pull off and write, and just write. About 60% of the story came to me. And I think Sam kind of said it. Once you start writing, I don't know how to stop. And that was about 4 or 5 novels ago. This is really what I want to tell you. First of all, my name is Wade Rivers, waderivers.com. My email is waderivers99. But the reason why I'm here is really not to pitch books or anything like that. It's a bigger cause. And I'd like to get in touch with each and every one of you if I could. It's been put on my heart, Arkansas really, and Hot Springs particularly, we need to create an atmosphere. There's all these different stories, okay? We have a lot of criminal minds in here, put it that way. Very imaginative. But I'm going to work over the next year to try to get this state to put up $30 million, all right? And we have it, to start help funding movies in this state. And we've got all the resources to do that. And if you break it down, this is my pitch to you, $30 million comes down to about $10 per person in the state. Can't tell me we don't have it. All right. And there's a lot of great minds here and want to take advantage of that. God bless you all. Thank you much.
Shout out to William F. Raymond Public Library, my first library.
Really?
Yes, sir.
That's where I grew up.
All right. I have one author left on my list. Have I missed anyone else? Did you step out to get a drink of water and I missed you? All right, our final author today will be Kai Coggin, and I am so pleased that she is here. She was recently named Hot Springs' first ever Poet Laureate. Talking to us about her books, and then also I've asked her to speak for a few moments about Wednesday Night Poetry. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Hello, everybody. What a great crowd. My name is Kai Coggin. Thank you to the Garland County Library, and also thank you to the Hot Springs Area Cultural Alliance. This is the official festival t-shirt for Arts in the Park, the 10-day festival that's going on right now. I used to be on the board, so I still do the commercials for it. But this is a community-sponsored event. This Author Day has been an amazing event every single year, and it's just been getting bigger and bigger. So thank you for coming to share your stories. My name is Kai Coggin. Like she said, I was just named by the mayor as the first ever Hot Springs Poet Laureate. It's a really big honor for me. I've been writing and publishing in this town for about 10 years. I was born in Bangkok, Thailand. I was raised in Houston, Texas. I got a degree in poetry and creative writing, but I didn't know how to make money doing poetry. You know, maybe y'all can empathize with me. So I did go into teaching. I taught 9th and 10th grade English, and I won Teacher of the Year after 5 years. And then I won Teacher of the Year out of the whole school district. And then I won Teacher of the Year out of 85,000 teachers in the city of Houston. And then I quit. And then I quit because in my heart, there was still this little flame burning. I knew that it was poetry that was my path. And I knew that the only meaningful times, not the only, but most of the meaningful times that I had with my students were connected some way to lessons about poetry. Telling your story is such a life-saving event and a life-saving skill to have. Having someone listen to you is also so important. And so I moved here to Hot Springs, and I guess there's something in the water here. You like that? There's something in the water here that helps us. You know, there's all this nature, there's all this beauty here. And since I've been here, I have had 4 books published by 4 different publishers. My first book came out in 2014. It's called Periscope Heart. I won a manuscript contest. It was my first try to send out my manuscript, and I won. And so my first book was published. I was running around the house just screaming, and I just couldn't believe it. But this is my first collection, Periscope Heart. These are all here in the library as well. This is my second book, Wingspan. It came out in 2016. And the cool thing about this book is when you open the book, the wings open. Pretty good. I do that in the elementary schools, and so I'm going to do it to you too. Pretty neat, huh? Right? The wings open. Okay. My third collection came out in 2019 with Sibling Rivalry Press, and this is called Incandescent. And I write poems about nature, about love, but I also write poems that are informed by my own personal identity. I too am not a preacher, okay? I find God and spirit in nature and in other human beings. I write from the point of view of being a queer woman of color in Arkansas, from being married to a woman here in Hot Springs. My wife actually painted the covers for 3 of these books. She painted these covers. Okay, so I am a poet laureate, but I'm also a person that's been on the margins for a long time, the margins of society. So along with writing these books, I've also been in the classrooms. And over the last 8 years, I've been working with the Arkansas Arts Council and Arkansas Learning Through the Arts, and I've seen about 15,000 students from grade kindergarten to grade 12 and given them the tool of poetry. I've told them that poetry is a safe place for your feelings. And some of you guys have come up here and read your poems and started crying. And those little kids, there's little kids out there, little ones, little bitty ones. So I'm gonna actually read you a poem that was written today by a 4th grader. And it's not your daughter. I was actually in her daughter's classroom today. I taught 125 4th and 5th graders today, then came here. This is called I Can Hear Them. It was written by a girl named Terrain, and she's 10. I can hear them on the phone. I can hear them overnight. I make the house overflow with water because I can hear them. I can hear them fighting over me. I can hear them. Poem. written by a child, written by a child. When you tell a kid, you can put anything you want to in a poem and it's safe there, that message is what saved my life. And so that's a lot of the work that I do right here in Hot Springs. My fourth collection is called Mining for Stardust. And the first poem in this book I wrote on the first day of the pandemic lockdown, and it takes the reader through that horrible year, 2020, that we went through, the racial reckoning that we went through as a country, the election, COVID, losing thousands and thousands of our brothers and sisters. Also, I was in the garden a lot, so there's a lot of those poems too. So that's my story so far. I'm an Arkansas master naturalist. I'm a teaching artist here in Hot Springs, in Little Rock. Like I said, I'm the poet laureate. But also I am the host and curator of the longest running consecutive weekly open mic series in the entire country. And it's called Wednesday Night Poetry, and it happens right here in Hot Springs. It's gonna happen tonight. I'm actually going there after this. It's a long day. But if you wanna come, it's a totally open mic. It started February 1st, 1989, and we have never missed a single week in 1,788 weeks in a row. Ever. Never missed a week. I took over as the new host at the 30th anniversary, and I was charged with taking it into the future in 2019. And in 2020, guess what the future was?
Yeah.
We all know. We couldn't meet at the coffee shop anymore because the world was locked down. And so I thought fast on my feet and I moved it to Facebook. And I asked the local poets here, Lucky, Mr. Beard, a couple of other friends, to send me videos of themselves reading a poem. And I read a poem with my dog in my living room. I recorded it and I posted all of those poems on Facebook that very first Wednesday, March 17th, 2020, when we were all locked down. And we didn't miss the streak. The streak continued. The week after that, I opened it up to poets anywhere. So I had poets that were locked down all over the country and all over the world, sending me 3-minute videos of themselves all over in lockdown, of poems, of stories. And I collected all of these and I posted them at the same time the next Wednesday. And that became our virtual Wednesday night poetry community. Over the course of 2020 and 2021, 5,000 poets sent me videos. 5,000. 6 of the 7 continents on our planet know of Wednesday night poetry. People from all over the world. I had the United States Poet Laureate, Joy Harjo, the present Poet Laureate, Ada Limon, Jane Hirschfield, Naomi Shihab-Nye, giants of the poetry world read for our little poetry series. And so it's a really big deal. If you know where Collective Coffee and Tea is, that's where it happens every single Wednesday. You don't have to be a poet. Biddy, you can come and read your stories. Come and read your, come and share your stories, your poems, your novels. I really want to hear more about the animal stories from you. Super interested in that. So please come. It starts at 6:30. It's an open mic and it's every Wednesday. If you can't make it tonight, we're gonna be there. We never miss a week. So thank you so much, everyone, for coming. Let's give it up one more time to Shannon and everyone here. Keep writing, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Kai, for everything you're doing to promote writing culture here in Hot Springs. So that is the end of our program for today. I'm going to turn the microphone back over in just a moment to Paul, so he can let us know where you can view the live stream and the recording later. So I just want to say thank each of you for coming and sharing your stories with us. Thank you to all the people who are here as supporters, for your friends and family members. We writers cannot get along in life without you. So we appreciate all the support that you give. Let's give them a hand. That's all I have for you today. I hope you'll join us again next year for Local Author Day. I hope you'll come to more events for Arts in the Park this week. I hope you'll attend Poetry Night tonight at Collective at 6:30. And have a good afternoon.
Got a couple things to say. First about Wednesday night poetry. Thank you, Kai. I had always heard about it, but I went for the first time back in October. And, going in, I didn't really know what to expect. I was kind of expecting it to be a little cringy since it was open mic, and figured there'd be a lot of amateurs there. And of course, there's a little bit of that, but overall, it was fantastic. I laughed and cried, and it was a wonderful night. I need to go back, so I can't recommend Wednesday night poetry enough. Absolutely. But several of you asked me about my shirt earlier.
Yeah.
So I talked to our marketing department, and they're going to see what they can do to make the shirt available to the public. But we do have some of these little pins if you want to grab one at that table where I was sitting with the laptop. There's also program calendars for kids, teens, and adults. That's all on one calendar for May all the way through summer. We've got our summer reading program coming up, which is actually 3 different summer reading programs, one for kids, one for teens, one for adults. The more books they read, the more chances they have to enter to win prizes. We've got lots of sponsors from all around the community. Many different businesses and organizations have sponsored prizes and money for us to get prizes for that. And we live streamed and recorded this, and you can access that on the library's Facebook and YouTube channels. It's going to be the same video, but if you want to share that, you might share both links on your social media or your email newsletters or whatever you use. Last time was the first time we recorded it last year, and within about a week, it had 600 views. So if you share all of that, we can surpass that this year, and you can all help support each other and give each other a platform and spread the word. So Garland County Library on Facebook or our YouTube channel, you'll find the video as soon as we're done here today. And I also want to give one more round of applause to Shannon. I think that we've done this for several years, but I think this is the smoothest it's ever gone. So this is going to be the format going forward. And thank you all for participating.
Good job. Thank you.